Welcome back. And today is a day for like really still pouring your tea and sitting still. Today is that day when you need your whiskey, maybe, or something like that. I don't know what time it is, but you may need a whiskey today. I have Jeremy Roadruck in the studios. I like to call these studios until they become studios. So I am excited for Jeremy because Jeremy is a kind of person who's really going to show you how to cut the BS and ride your life and be the driver in your own life and go through life. Life is hard. Life can turn you twists and turns. But Jeremy has a way that he's looked at this and gone, life can be what you make it. Everything is a story. You can beat yourself up, or you can just get up and take charge of your life. That's in simplicity what I want to say about Jeremy. He's been doing this for decades. And to try and explain it all is not going to serve you because I can't even explain everything he does. I just think he's some like a magic type of, like if they give you a magic wand and you could just slap your life and get what you want, I think that's the work he does. If there was a magic wand to depression, to stress, to all problems, to your wife not respecting you, to your kids not listening to you, to your business sucking, to people hating you, to everything in your life, if you could like just slap it and it goes away, I think that's the work. But I don't have words to describe this work. So let's bring Jeremy in and let him like really tell us how he helps people, how it works, why it's like that, and everything in between. And I think it's going to be the best way to bring him up without telling you about his bio, which is like 2 pages right now on my computer. Like I can't even get myself to read it. It's too much. Jeremy, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you.
Good morning, Prima. How are you?
Very well. It's 6 a.m. We're hoping that you are awake.
Oh yes, let's go. It's my hair's perfect, like, same hair days, no bad hair days. And yeah, I'm excited for this conversation. We've had a lot of fun back and forth in Messenger. We had a really great intake call. So, I love your perspective and the games you're playing. And yeah, let's go beat people with a wisdom stick with love.
Let's start from a place of saying, what problem do you see in the world that exists because people haven't met your work? What's the problem we have today?
Well, the snarky side of me wants to say apathy, but who cares? And that's really just me being slightly snarky. It really, the thing I see is suffering. Like literally, just so many people are suffering. They are unhappy. They don't believe there's anything they can do about it, and it gets into so much of their life. There's so much fear and doubt and pain and misery, and we can like stack it and go anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, all these negative emotions.
Mm.
They're just emotions. They're just like if they were warning lights on a dashboard for you to make some changes. Because if you find
Mm.
yourself caught up in anger is usually it's a way back to power when you feel disempowered, when you feel sad, you feel hurt, you feel afraid, you feel guilty, you get mad, and it's like it's not my fault that this happened, it's your fault, and it's like, but is that a joyous expression of life and love, and is that really the person you want to be? Is this angry, yelling, screaming, notice me, pay attention to me, I matter, damn it type person? Is
Mm.
that really what you were born for? Or is that we got kind of sidetracked into some stuff? And I see that suffering, and it's nobody can make you suffer but you. Like
Mm.
that's the simple truth. It's like people like, no, that's not true. And it's like, well, but pain, yeah, like people can cause you pain. Totally agree with that. Been through a lot of that.
Mm.
But the suffering is then we get locked into a story that we keep telling ourselves that we don't believe we can escape from. And we keep punishing ourselves and we keep slaughtering ourselves beyond the moment of that pain. Like that's what the suffering is. And it's like, well, you don't have to suffer,
Mm.
right? Tony Robbins has a statement and he says, there's no victims, there's just volunteers. And on one level, I agree, on another level, I don't.
Mm.
And I agree with the idea once you have awareness of like the patterns and the factors that cause the emotion and all the stuff, beyond once you're aware of everything, then yeah, absolutely you're kind of volunteering to stay in that pain. But like to tell somebody who's been through a significant emotional event, somebody who's been through a moment of impact, a trauma, an abuse, a death, a loss, but to tell them, oh, you're volunteering to feel miserable. It's like, screw you, dude. I'm not volunteering for this. I'd let it go. But I've talked to people, okay, let's let it go. Like I have the trainings that I have and the tools that I have, like we could let go of that grief or let go of that guilt. We could do that like in one conversation. And they're like, ooh, I'm not ready for that. And I'm like,
They
you've
still
been
want the
in
pain.
misery. You've been in misery for 20 years,
Mm.
right? I talked to a lady who she's in her 30s, but when she was 14, her and her grandfather got in an argument and he was in hospice and she stormed out. And then he passed away before she apologized. So for 20 years, she believed it's my fault he died. It's my fault he passed on because I was so mean and hateful and it broke his heart and he died. And that was the story she made. And she believed that from 14 years old to mid 30s.
Mm.
Well, would you like to change that story? Would you like to have a different feeling about that? What do you mean? Well, yeah, we can just change the story because our mind works, our unconscious works 2 million to 11 million bits of data a second. Our
Mm.
conscious mind only works 20 to 137 bits of data. So we're deleting, distorting, and generalizing every single second. There's millions of interpretations every single second of our life. So if you hold out your hand and we're going to dump 2 million to 11 million toothpicks, but you're only going to catch at most 137 toothpicks, there's a lot of stuff all over the floor.
Mm.
And we can find new stories, new interpretations, new understandings because you really think your grandfather decided, I'm done? That fight, my whole entire life, that one argument with my one teenage granddaughter, that's it. Goodbye. On a certain level, that's kind of massively egocentric. Like,
Mm.
wow, his whole life is about you. But she's a 14-year-old young lady. That's normal to be egocentric like that. Like that, there's nothing wrong with that in that perspective. But she got locked into a story, and it's been that guilt and that shame and that regret and that sadness. She's been carrying it for decades, which affects dating, it affects career, it affects other family relationships. Like there's this whole web of stuff. And if we just shift her belief system, her BS,
Mm.
everything around it begins to reorganize and get smoother. And she's able to be more present because she's not like fighting herself anymore. That's why if you've read, The Body Keeps Score and go into the work of yoga and stuff like that, you'll see these correlations showing up. And when people are carrying this unconscious tension, they're kind of spoiling for a fight and they're ready to explode because they're just hair trigger in their emotions and they don't know why.
Mm.
Cool. Let's just change that. Right. In my world, it's really simple. And I've worked with people from 3 to 94. You either get a loving response or a cry for help. That's it. It's either positive, one big happy, or it's negative, small, sad, cold. And when you
Mm.
start to look at situations and people, if they're not giving you a loving response, then where are they internally? Not in a good place.
Mm.
Cool. So do you want to continue to add to that misery and grief and throw your own stuff on them too? Or do you want to back off and like, hey, let me just give you room to breathe for a second. I care
Mm.
about you and I care about where this is going, and I don't want to fight with you about this. I want to get on the same page with you. I want to get on the same team. I want to understand. Please tell me more.
Mm.
And in business they call it service recovery, right? When a client calls in, torqued off, and like you recover the sale or recover the client or recover the relationship. We should be teaching that to our teenagers. We should be teaching that to our kids in elementary school. We should be teaching that to our parents. Like, here's how you recover this situation, not how dare you and who do you think you are. I mean, you could do that, but how well does that work? You get solid and hard in your perspective, and they get solid and hard in their perspective, and then you just bash into each other. And but I love you, but you got to listen to me, and I'm going to break you open because you're an arrogant blah 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 blah. It's like that's love. How? Like and I say this sort of in jest, but like I've been through this and I've done this. Like I've been
Mm,
that pig-headed idiot arguing and yelling for my point of view. Like I've been that guy too. Like please don't understand. I'm not some
mm,
sacred high on a mountain guy. Like I'm an idiot yelling at babies because like I'm exhausted because I'm still a human
mm,
being having a human experience. So yeah, I have those dumb moments and I'm like, oh, son of a the saving grace is, and this is for all of us, we are
mm,
as stupid as we will ever be for the rest of our lives today. Because in 10
mm,
years we'll be smarter. We'll be more experienced. 10 years we'll look back and go, oh, what a putz. But unfortunately, I don't know how to get to that 10 years older version of me yet, except other than
mm,
just like live the next 10 years. So
mm.
I'm still looking for that. Like, where's that mental emotional shortcut? Like, I'm 10 years smarter now. Yay.
Okay. So in summary, everything the story we tell ourselves, and we can choose pity or we can choose to fix stuff and enjoy life. And so if we're in a state of unhappiness today, chances are there's a story we are telling ourselves that is not serving us. And as long as we
Correct.
keep to tell ourselves that story, it's a cycle until you break that pattern, until you break that
Yep.
pattern. Wow.
Like
Wow.
Jung said, as long as something stays in our unconscious, it will
Mm,
rule our lives and we will
mm,
call it fate. Right.
mm,
And it really is. It's a story that we're locked into that we're telling unconsciously. Right. And when I work with my clients, the way I frame it is this. Imagine, you go to the
mm,
movies and you paid your money and you got your popcorn, you go and you sit down and there's this movie and it starts and it's horrible. And you're trying to make the best of it, but it's just stupid and it's so dumb. And you feel your intelligence like leaking out of your ears and falling on the floor like dumb. It's
mm,
so bad that you get up out of the movie and you leave. And then a year later, 5 years later, that movie's on TV and you could watch it for free. Are you going to watch that movie that you got up and walked out of for free on TV? And people are like, no, that's dumb. Like, cool. So you had this thing happen between
mm,
usually like 2 and 11 years old, and it was really unpleasant. It was really painful and it was really miserable. And you still keep telling that story. Isn't that
mm.
interesting?
You keep telling the movie. I want to kind of take you to a place where Jeremy didn't know this stuff, where he was still fighting and trying to be hard and screaming at whoever was in front of him. And I want you to share
Uh,
that story because sometimes I listen to you and you sound like Iron Man. But who was the Jeremy before the Iron Man who had like this sword, which is like slap life, let's go? Like, who was that Jeremy that didn't know a thing about his stories? Tell us about that Jeremy. I'd love to kind of go there.
God. Oh, there's so many. Like, let me give you probably the best one, which is the most like clear and succinct. So I 20 years old
Mm,
and scrawny, like just like I'm a ruler, like just so 5'11",
mm,
140 pounds, 142 pounds, just wicked thin. My shoulder and my wrist, my whole entire arm is just the same size.
mm,
And I started kung fu. And the week before I started kung fu, yeah, I better get in shape a little bit so I don't embarrass myself. So I like got on the ground. I'm gonna do a push up. So I have my hands and I come down to the ground and I go back up. Okay, that was hard, but that wasn't bad. Let me do another one. And I
mm,
unlocked my elbows to do my second push up, and my body collapsed and I hit the floor and I couldn't move my arms. I hit muscle failure and I literally could not move my arms. I sat on the floor for 5 minutes. I can't I had to like roll over on my back and then sit up because like my arms were just so cooked because I was so out of shape. And so I get there and I meet my Sifu, Grandmaster Ming, brilliant guy. I love that man. And we do this intro. It was really cool. And so I meet one of the guys there. He's a purple sash. He's like a mid-level student. His name is Chongo, which is an African god of war.
mm.
And he goes to shake hands. And I said, "Oh, I don't shake hands." And he's like, "Oh, why is that?" As he starts to pull his hand back. And I'm like, "Well, shaking hands is a ritual among warrior cultures to say that I'm not carrying a weapon. But you're a martial artist. You've trained your whole body to be a weapon. That makes you a liar. I don't believe in lying." And Chongo hated my guts for about
Mm,
3 years.
mm,
And I never knew. I never noticed. And he was like I was so intellectually dominant. Like I had such a need to be right And I knew you were going to reject me at some point anyway, because I'm already rejecting myself. So I'll make you
Mm.
reject me on my terms now. Thank you. I'm just going to save time because I'm right. And I was so in this I'm right thing. And so
Mm.
he, he like hated my guts, and he was like, oh, he told me later, he's like, I prayed you would make it to sparring class. And I did. And he beat the crap out of me. Like just mercilessly slam, choke, punch, kick, tackle, like anything. Because the thing you got to know about Chongo is he's like 5'8", and he was like
Mm.
200 something pounds, and he's just built like a fire plug. But he had been fighting and wrestling since he was 5 years old. He and his brothers, when they were in high school, would go to martial arts schools and beat up the instructors. And if they could beat the instructors up, they wouldn't take classes there.
Mm.
So he had already been doing martial arts for 20 years when I met him, and I didn't know that. And he just beat me. But the funny thing was, and this is where who I really was showed up.
Mm.
It was the coolest thing. Because I would be like, how did you do that? What did you do? And it was like, if you ever had a dog that wants a toy and then you give it to it and it's like, I don't want this anymore. And it was like, he couldn't hurt me. He couldn't make me mad about what he was doing to me because I actually was not this massive egocentric jerk. I
Mm.
was a defensive, scared little boy, and he had this power that was like, cool. How'd you do that?
Mm.
What did I do? Because the only way you can hit, like the way we approach it, the only way you get hit is because you had an opening. You did something wrong. Like I can't control
Mm.
what my opponent does right. But if I get hit, it's because there was an opening. I did something to create that. So as I learn to take away the openings, then it gets harder and harder to hit me. It's kind of a cool way to look at things. Your parents are yelling at you. Is it because they don't like you, or is it because you didn't do things the way they wanted you to do them? Take control of that story. Like I was learning
Mm.
that very, very beginning in Kung Fu back in 95. And so he would beat me and I would just be like, how did you do that? What did I do? Like, and I would start to get better because then he had to work harder to beat me because I like started taking stuff away. And like I earned his
Mm.
respect over time because, oh, this guy is actually not a bad guy. Because we have a lot of egocentric idiots come into martial arts
Mm.
and think they know something, and they're all and they usually get broken because their mouth runs writes a check their ego can't cash. And I didn't have an ego like that. My ego was I'm worthless, which wasn't the truth, but that's what I believed about myself at the time. And I worked in a sandpaper factory in those days, and I was really productive, but I was in fury and anger all the time.
Mm.
And the pivot was actually 3 months into my martial arts. I got some social time. It was May of '95, and I got to have some social time with Grandmaster Moyat, which is my Sifu's Sifu.
Mm.
And we were playing pool in the evening. I didn't make it to the training because I had to work at the factory. But we're out of the pool hall, and
Mm.
pool and fighting and kung fu, very interesting because the ball does what you do with the stick because of where you were and what you were thinking and feeling and your intentionality with the stick. Like it's kung fu. It's energy expressed, and how you set yourself up. Then you hit the ball. The ball is just a reflection of your setup. The ball has no opinions, no personality. So we're playing, and it's this deep kung fu life lesson. And I said something about myself to myself out loud that was self-destructive. I don't remember what I said,
Mm.
but Grandmaster Ming stopped and he looked up, and now he's Grandmaster Ming, but that it was Master Ming. But he stopped what he was doing. He looked me in the eyes and he said, "Don't talk to yourself like that." And he held my gaze
Mm.
for a moment, and then he went back to what he was doing. And that opened a window for me. What am I saying to myself? And I really began to analyze my self-talk. And I was so negative, and I was so angry, and I was so defensive, and I was so judgmental. And I heard the conversation, like I really started paying attention, and that the factory was the perfect place to be because I didn't have to talk to anybody. So I was stuck in my own head for hours. And I began to just start unraveling my thoughts, and my conversation began to have arguments with myself. Like, why do I think that? Well, how do you know that? Well, why does that have to be true? And I began to question. And I
Mm.
read things like How to Win Friends and Influence People. The fun thing when you read a book, your brain has to make you have to process it internally.
Mm.
So as you're reading it, your brain reorganizes itself to match the way the mind of the person who wrote it was thinking when they wrote it.
Mm. Mm.
When you listen to an audible, because you're passively receiving it, you're just hearing it like a conversation. It doesn't reorganize your brain the same way. So when you read it for yourself and you
Mm.
have that internal dialogue or that internal representational system processing what you're reading, your internal world reorganizes. So I began to think like um, uh, Dale Carnegie.
Mm.
And then when you put the book down, you have that latency of that neural network. And then I go back to my normal brain, and my normal brain would say something. And then my Dale Carnegie brain would say something back. What? It's like started arguing with myself, and I'm arguing his stuff against my stuff.
Mm.
Oh, dang, that's really helpful. So sometimes when you don't have a role model or you don't have somebody to give you good advice, you can read the books of other people who created good things or did made big impact. And as you actually read it, you begin to think like they think. And you can
That's
borrow
really
because in
good.
part of my life is a hypnotherapist. And so like knowing how we get into trance states and how we can influence learning and all these really cool things. But that right there, Audible is great, and I'll listen to stuff at 150% speed. We can listen at like 500 words a minute. Um, and I'll listen to get data because I'm at a point now. I have a lot of frameworks that I can attach stuff to very easily, and I can assimilate very easily, and I can
Mm.
extrapolate very easily. But it's a skill I developed. Like it's a process I teach people. But now, like I listen to an Audible and it's like, ooh, that was good. Then I'll go get the book and dig into it because
Mm.
now I really want to devour this. Let me get the awareness. I'm familiar with a lot of this stuff. Oh, that was interesting. I had never thought of it like that before. Let me see. Let me go back into that, and then I'll get the book itself and read it for myself. Um,
That's
just
crazy.
because,
So you're saying that if you get a book, because I've read good books on Audible, but I don't have the experience you have. Like, I don't feel like there's a massive wiring. I do have the concepts, but I don't feel like there is a massive shift to authors. So you're saying if you listen to the book and you like it, go read the book.
yes, because
That's
it gets into your
interesting.
nervous system differently. Yeah,
That's interesting. Alex Hormozy, when he wrote his book, he said, this is what I advise you to do. I want you to play the audiobook, and I want you to get the real book, and I want to read the book to you as you read it. This is going to be
yeah.
the easiest way you understand what I'm saying. But I didn't quite get it like that. I think that's where he was
Mhm.
going when he wrote, I don't know whether it was the offers book or something, but that's
Yeah,
what he
$100 million
tells people to
offers,
do.
$100 leads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, see, a lot of people like they understand the impact of the mechanism, but they don't understand the mechanism, which is
Mm.
it's a lot of like we talk in the kung fu world, we talk about technicians and practitioners, at least in our family.
Mm.
Not every family is the same. Technicians can run the machine.
Mm.
So a lot of people are technicians. They have the ability to do the thing.
Mm.
But now, can you extrapolate? Can you create? Can you build something new? That requires what we call a practitioner. Because a
Mm.
practitioner, we're looking at this as a way of life. It's like an engineer who designed the machine. Technician can run the machine. Here's what you do. Here's how you do it. A lot of fighters, they can fight. Cool. Now you're facing a new situation. Well, then you got to fight harder.
Mm.
Well, but if all I have is a hammer, I need more tools than a hammer. I need more tools than a screwdriver. And so technicians don't create the tools. They utilize the tools. They have skill. They have ability. They have impact. Practitioners, they're like the engineers who understand design principles and systems, and it's a higher level of awareness. So we'll say in Cantonese, Lin Fat. Lin is to
Mm.
train, to
Mm.
condition.
Mm.
For practitioners, we say Sao Fat. Sao means to cultivate. So if you're
Mm.
going to cultivate something, it's a different experience because it touches on more levels than just be a good fighter. So like Mike Tyson, when he was a boxer, was a technician. When he started racing pigeons and raising pigeons, he became a practitioner because he began to look at, I'm so big and powerful, I could destroy this bird without a thought. He had to be more careful, more sensitive, more aware. It made him have to change his frames of reference because it wasn't about him, it was about this other thing. And he had to show differently. And that to me, that's where I saw a lot of his growth as a man, as a human being, and a lot more integration and a lot more like humility and understanding. Because like now we find out years later, back when he was in his like the height of his fighting career, he would cry before he would go fight because he felt bad for how much he was going to destroy this other human being.
Mm.
But he had to go do it because that's my job, and he had all this stuff to support being a really good fighter, but he felt like a horrible human being. And then you look at, that came into his marriage and it came into all these other situations.
Mm.
But raising pigeons seems to have been the vehicle for him to get out of himself, and really his life is about others, and he began to grow in new ways. And so to me, it's like Mike Tyson in the boxing ring is a technician. Raising pigeons, he became a practitioner. And really what I do matters on so many levels. And not everybody's there, and that's okay. Not everybody has to be a
Mm.
practitioner. That's the thing, is like we don't judge like which one's the true right way. And it's like, shut up. What's better, crawling, walking, running, or flying? I don't know. Any of them is better than just sitting on the couch, but sometimes you got to sit on the couch too. It's okay to rest. Like you don't
Mm.
heal from a workout unless you rest and recover. Like you have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to stop moving,
Mm.
right? Like there's an ebb and a flow. There's a yin, there's a yang, there's a sun, there's a night. Like there's reasons for this stuff. Align with
So,
it. Life gets
so,
easier.
so, Jeremy, I want to take you. So, you're now in martial arts. You get beaten up. You read the books. I want that journey to the Jeremy now. I don't know, the bulletproof Jeremy. I want that journey. I want keep in the
Unstoppable.
line and give me the journey. Like, how did you get here?
Oy vey. Well, first, I made it to birth. That was impressive. My
Okay.
mom had eight miscarriages. She had 10
Oh,
pregnancies. I'm number seven, and they wanted
wow.
two. My brother's
Wow.
number four. Yeah.
Wow.
So when I found that out, it was like, ugh, because I already didn't like myself back then, and I was like, I found
Mm.
that out at eight. I already didn't like myself. I already thought like I shouldn't be here, and then at 8 years old, you find out, oh no, you've got eight siblings that didn't make it. What?
Mm.
Guilt just massive, like, oh my god, I, I
Mm.
i shouldn't be so angry with myself. I shouldn't hate myself so much then, because I have to go live for at least four, probably six other people. God, how am I going to
Mm.
do that? So the fact I was born already kind of cool.
Mm.
And then I was this massive high energy kid. Like I fell asleep standing up in my crib, climbed on the roof of the house when I was four. I got lost in a Turkish bazaar when I was four.
Mm.
um I almost got run over running into the street in Turkey a couple of times. So I
Oh,
was raised on a harness because I had so much energy and curiosity. And the way I phrase it is I had a very low excitation threshold. I get excited about a lot of stuff really fast. I'm really curious
mm.
about a lot of things. Today we
Mm.
would put a label on that of some sort and medicate more than likely. But this was the late 70s, early 80s, and my parents didn't want to give me a label. So growing up in Turkey, I was like in the hospital like once a week because just dumb stuff. My mom had friends come over, and I just kind of tooled into the room, and I'm 3 years old, and I like grabbed a pot of coffee that they had just made and I dumped it on my head. And so there's like boils opening up on my skin, and my mom's racing me to the hospital, and she's terrified they're gonna take me away from her because like it's like almost every week I'm doing something stupid. But I'm just high energy kid. Like I'm just curious.
So
And
then
so
there was no labels, no, I don't know, ADHD, no nothing, just a kid who's excited. That was cute. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like 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 just the mindset, right? I'm 4 years old.
Mm.
I'm in
Mm.
Turkey. I'm naked, dancing on the counter with a big, huge knife, and I'm just having fun. And they had like a little housekeeper lady because it was super cheap and stuff.
Mm.
And my mom comes in and sees me, yanks the knife out of my hand, smacks me on the butt, and I start crying. And
Mm.
little Fatima is like, "But Madame, he's only a child." And my mom's like, "And if you treat him like that, he won't make it past childhood." Because like little boys are pampered in
Mm.
Arab and Semitic culture a lot, and they're placated a lot. But it's like there's no reason a 4 year old child should have a knife or be dancing on a counter or be naked. All three of those are bad, bad, bad. So my parents had some standards there. So I grew up, kind of had this experience. Went to Saudi. In Saudi, my dad was military. That's why we were all over the place. But in Saudi, I was on a first name basis with the principal because I would get into trouble.
Mm,
And it wasn't that I was like a bad kid, but just I was a high energy kid and I had opinions and I wasn't afraid to say them. And
mm,
I'll let you know right where I am and what I'm thinking and what I want and what I feel like. Not a problem. The thing is, though, when I was in Saudi, I went out past where we lived. There was security fences and stuff like that, and there was like a construction area, and we used to go play
mm,
there. And then I went out past the security fence, five, and there was a security guard there, and some inappropriate things happened that my parents didn't find out about for about 30 years.
mm,
And part of it I blanked out, but part of it when I came to running away, putting clothes back on, I linked up. Something bad happened, and it's my fault because I was out where I wasn't supposed to be. I broke the rules and I got punished. But I couldn't tell my parents because if I tell my parents, I'll get punished again.
mm,
And so now at 5 years old, I have this thing I can't tell anybody about. And eventually I lost the memories of exactly what happened. I didn't recover them until years later. But I had this feeling of not that was wrong because little kids are egocentric. They only know their own experience.
mm,
So it wasn't that was wrong. It's I was wrong.
mm.
And that became an unconscious belief system. But then it's I'm wrong and I'm not safe.
Wow.
So at 5 years old, I can't put my back against the wall. I can't let anybody sneak up on me. Like I've got to know all the entrances and exits. So I suddenly developed this higher need for certainty
Mm,
about safety and about where am I and who's around me. And so I became much more observant and much more aware of dominant personalities in the room and how can I be invisible because if no one notices me, I'm safe. And so my personality began to tamp down. And
mm,
then the next year, next year we came back to the US and some inappropriate things happened with some kids up the street in a closet. So now I can't trust adults and I can't trust kids. And I've got what people say is one thing, what people do is a second thing, and what they mean is a third thing, and I don't know who I can trust.
interesting.
Going to school in America, a little bit different
Mm,
experience than Saudi. But what I did notice is, have you ever played tic-tac-toe with a 7-year-old who thinks that if they lose, they're going to die?
mm,
Because I had this huge level of intensity. And,
mm,
this is a kid who ran into traffic, fell asleep standing up, but I can't let that energy out. And so now I'm in this place of if I lose the tic-tac-toe, and I don't even know why I feel this way, but if I lose, I'm gonna die. But I see the other kids pulling back because I'm like just a massive energy shift, energy difference. I have to win. There's no other choice because if I don't win, I'm gonna die. Like that level of intensity,
mm,
and I had to back off. I had to not care as much. I had to not because I could see their reaction. Like that's not good for me because now I'm gonna stand out. I can't have that happen. So now I've got to tamp down even more. And I became a very good mimic and a very good chameleon. And I got lost inside myself because I can't trust anyone. I can't trust kids. I can't trust adults. I can't tell my parents because I'll get in trouble more. And so I ended
mm,
up playing this game of I'm not going to play your game. Like you can't control me.
mm,
And so, really smart kid, really big heart, but like can't let it out, don't know what to do with it. And so I just kind of like spun inside myself. Um, like those are the three like really pivotal sequences that just kind of folded me. And I knew how to play the role and appear to be happy, or when I got in trouble, appear to be sad. But mostly all of it was just fury and rage. And
mm,
I don't know why, and I don't know where, and I can't let it out. And so it's just like, yeah, my best friend throughout like almost all of that was my cat. Cause like that was the one place I could just be because my cat was like, you're cool, I like you. Because I was gentle with him and playful with him and stuff like that.
mm.
But like, yeah, it was hard. I wouldn't wish
Okay.
that on anyone.
Okay. So We now have the Jeremy, the kid, the 1-year-old, the 10-year-old, all
Yeah.
of it. Now we can
Yeah.
see that he didn't always have it all
Mm,
figured out. Now,
no.
we have this Jeremy who is now helping people become unstoppable. We have this Jeremy who is helping people become successful beyond their belief systems. We have Jeremy who is helping men tap into their masculine and get respect and get stuff done and get what they want. We have Jeremy who is helping couples figure stuff out. Is it okay? Whatever, there's a version
Yeah.
of that. We have Jeremy who is helping parents get their kids to do the things they want. We have a Jeremy that is doing a few things going, one too many things. And I was wondering, because I want a process.
Yeah.
I want you to pick maybe one area or pick whatever. And I want you to give me a process of, okay, why are we unhappy in whatever situation? And how do we move from that to the state we want, which is really to thrive and become unstoppable and get people to hear us and get people to respect us and get our kids to do stuff and get our partners to do, like, give me that process or signature process, because I know you've created a lot of thought framework, so I don't know which one you want to distill down today. Pick one.
Yeah. So yeah, just to close the loop on what got me here now, it was martial arts because there's a big push right now in somatic therapy, but it's like, what does that mean? It means use the body. Well, guess what? When you're studying martial arts and you're fighting, you're using the body. And it was a great way to get the body, the mind, the emotions to integrate. And that was the pivot, and that was the shift, was it was fighting, but it was also teaching other people. Because when you're teaching a student, excuse me, when you're teaching a student, you have to pay attention. You have to notice, what are they giving you back as feedback? Right? I had a little kid, and I'll go somewhere with this and answer your question about the framework in just a second. I had a little kid who was mom and dad's miracle baby. And I'm Sifu, I'm instructor, and it's my school, and okay, everybody line up and everybody do this and everybody do that. And he's 4, and this is an 1,800 square foot training floor, and he just wants to run around on my mats. But I'm in charge, and you have to do what I say, and it's my school, and who do you think you are? And I had permission from his parents to like pick him up like a sack of potatoes and get his attention if that's what I had to do. Like I got that consent ahead of time. And so he's disrespecting me, and he's ignoring me, and he's not listening to me, and who does he think he is? This is my school. I'm doing this for his safety, and he needs to listen to me, and he needs to line up, and he needs to. Like now I hear like all these rules. It wasn't 2 people, it was rules that were driving this. But I got so just like, I'm done. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna argue with this. And so like I gave him my self-control. I won't say he took it because he wasn't asking for it. He's 4 years old. He just wants to run around and play. I'm the one that lost his self-control. I gave him my self-control. No one can take your self-control, but you can give it to them.
Wow.
And I gave it to him, and I went to grab him and pick him up, and I told him, I'm going to pick you up like a sack of potatoes and throw you over my shoulder if you don't listen to me. And he's having too much fun running. And I went and I grabbed him and I put him over my shoulder. And as I'm grabbing him to put him over my shoulder, he giggled in my face. Wow. And I realized, you son of a beautiful little freaking soul. Because I was playing a game of I'm in charge. And he was playing a game of I want to play. He wasn't disrespecting me. That was a story I made up. He was just, you've got this big, huge floor, and I just want to run around. And he was just having so much fun and so much delight. And I'm the one with my head up my butt. And so I realized he didn't take it. I gave it. I gave my self-control. And I've never let a student or a 4-year-old ever have my self-control ever again. I just refuse to give you that power. Thank you. You can invite me to give you my self-control, but I can choose not to. And that's the first step. I have a 5-step framework that I use pretty much everywhere. First one is awareness. Awareness is a key. It opens a new door. You still got to do work. You still got to unlock it. You still got to open it. You still got to walk through. You still got to be prepared for the consequences of walking through. Like there's a whole bunch of crap. But you cannot address something that you're not aware of. You can't tell someone they're in pain and suffering. They have to tell you they are in pain and suffering. You can see it. You can see the misery. You can see the pain. You can see the dumb decisions. You can see them slamming their head into a door. You can see it, but you can't tell them because that's your model of the world for their lived experience. They have to hit threshold. They have to hit consciousness. They have to hit that moment of this sucks. I don't want to do this. We know there's actually ways we could possibly play with that, change that. Is
Mm.
there? I have to make them aware of what's potentially possible. Right? In
Wow.
sales, it's not solution. You don't sell solution, you sell symptom first.
Mm.
Have you ever noticed? Are you aware of? Does this happen to you? Oh my gosh, I am aware of that. That does happen to me. Like it's the same process. Like with no awareness, we can't do anything else. You don't walk in and go, I got the thing, it's the greatest, and you should get it. And it's like, well, that's nice for you, but that's not me. That's not my life.
That's really cool. I wanna talk about that part. Awareness.
Mhm.
You just said people could be trying to commit suicide. Someone could be on a rope trying to take their life, and there's no help for them until they try, fail, they bounce down, and they're like, man, like I'm just sick. Like they have to get sick and tired and decide that
Mhm.
now they are ready for the next step.
Yeah, we call
Wow.
that threshold. You have to hit threshold. There's no other
Wow.
way. It's
Mm,
um there's a great quote from Anais Nin,
mm.
and I don't want to get it wrong. So give me just 1 second because I know the quote, but I don't want to get it. I don't want to slaughter it.
That's a very, like, as you look, like, that's a very big point. People have to hit threshold, and there is nothing that anybody can do to get them there. They have to
Well,
move
we
their
can give you
journey.
experience.
Mm,
We can give you experience. And this is like you look at the military, right? Military breaks you down. They put you under more and more complex mental, emotional, and physical situations until they
mm,
can get you to a breaking point. They want to force you to threshold, and then they will rebuild you in the military's image. Like, look at what they do with
mm,
the SEALs with Buds Week, and they're like, they're doing the sleep deprivation, and we're putting you in the water, and you're getting bumped in the head with a boat, and all this misery and pain. We want to put you fancier term would be a metanoia. We want to get you into this existential shifting point because
mm,
then once you hit threshold and you have nothing left to lose, now you can gain everything. And it's like, do you need to be at that level of pain and misery? And the answer is for some people, yes. For other people, they see the people in the pain and misery and go, I don't want to do that. Let me get there. I'm going to get out of that earlier. Like that's smarter.
mm,
Like I've done a lot of really dumb stuff. Don't do my dumb stuff. Learn from it.
mm,
Do your own dumb stuff, and then you share that, and I learn from you, and then we both win. Like that's ultimately what a Sifu in Chinese martial arts is supposed to be. We're on the same path, but I'm further ahead because I did a lot of dumb stuff for you. Let me save
mm.
you some time because we're on the same journey. So the
So,
quote is, well, the quote is, there became a time when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom.
mm,
That's a quote from Anais Nin, and I love that quote because it's like a piece of popcorn, and there's heat and there's pressure and there's tension, and then what happens to turn this little tiny kernel into this golden fluffy deliciousness? It's this explosion from inside. That potentiality was inside, but it had to be the right conditions to then open up.
mm. Okay. This is so important, what you're saying right now, because sometimes it's just not one person. Sometimes you're speaking to couples,
Mhm.
and one person is desperate for the other person. But this is so key. Can you explain this for couples where
Yeah.
one person is looking at the other person and the other person is looking at the other person, and there is that love that is forcing you to try and help someone get help when they don't,
Mhm.
they're not there, they're not ripe. Help me talk to like couples in that sense, because I feel like there is a lot of learning there, because just
Yeah.
because you want heaven for your spouse doesn't mean they're ready for it. And sometimes
Well, you
maybe it's helpful to know that they're just not ready for it, and maybe not try and push them. Help me there, like help me educate us there, because I feel like there's a lot of potential in that point.
Yeah, so then we've got to go. There's two frameworks that come into play. Like awareness is
Mm,
important.
mm,
First thing is we have to understand leadership versus abuse.
Mm.
And leadership, if we were to make it one word, leadership is about influence,
Mm.
right? And we can do that violently. We can do that with the threat of punishment and pain. We can do that with
Mm.
abuse. We can do that with bribery. We can do that with aligned vision and values. We can do that with reward.
Mm.
How do we influence someone? And the
Mm.
key to influence in the positive is you need to be in rapport, which is mutual liking. And the
Mm.
thing that kills rapport is judgment. So with the
Mm.
couple, the first thing I would ask is after framing out that, I would say, do you know what it's like? Do you know what it feels like to be judged? To have
Mm.
someone think you are the dumbest, most ignorant baboon on the planet, and they're telling you what to do. Does that inspire and motivate the best in you or not so much?
Not
Thank you
so
for your
much.
honesty. Yeah, because it's
Mm.
for all of us.
Mm.
When we feel judged, screw you. You're not qualified. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know why I think or feel this way or want this or need this. And so when we
Mm.
judge someone, we push them into a corner and they have to fight back. So we
Mm.
have to take judgment out. We need to focus on building rapport. Well, how do you take judgment out? What am I going to do? Is say, we'll just have no standards then? No, that's still a wound speaking. No, it's not about no standards. It's about learning how to evaluate.
Mm.
We want to evaluate for current and future growth.
Mm.
And that's for both of us, because if you keep rubbing their nose in the mistakes that they made, is that working? Is that getting you the result you want? No. Well, then stop. We have to change approach. It's not that you're wrong for wanting the goals that you want. The way
Mm.
you're going about getting your goals isn't getting you your result. That's information.
Mm.
That's part of the chain of communication. That's feedback. You should
Mm.
change your approach. So first step is, you know what it's like to be judged. We got to stop judging and we got to work on building rapport. Um, and then the second thing is let's take control of our language. And
Mm.
really the question that matters is this: do you want to be right or do you want to get results? And that's for both partners.
Mm.
Because if you want to be right, you're going to keep doing what you're doing and you're going to keep getting what you're getting. If you want to get
Mm.
results, then you'll be more open to iteration, calibration, changing, adapting.
Mm.
Because all you're getting is feedback. What do you utilize? What are you using the feedback for? To double down on I'm right, do it my way, which isn't working. So your way isn't right because if it was, you get your result. So let's go ahead and let me ask you, do you want to be right or do you want to get results? Because if you want to be right, we're done. Nobody can help you. You're not at threshold. You need more pain. And
Mm.
if you want to get results, cool, we can help you. We can change this, right?
Mm.
And then the last piece is the third framework is what I call a reason, a season, and a lifetime, or RSL. And these are the three main stories.
Mm.
So usually what I'll do, and this is for our viewers, but if you drew a plus sign,
Mm.
drew two backwards parentheticals, and then drew two parallel lines as a vertical stack like this. Where's the light? Light too much. Hold on, give it a second. I'll make it darker because but you do a plus sign, that's a reason,
Mm.
right? It's a moment of impact. You've got one life going this way, horizontal, one life going that way, vertical, where they hit each other. Boom. That's a moment of impact. And that's a
Mm.
reason that our two lives crashed. And then there's a season, which is two backwards parentheticals. Two lives come together, journey for a while, and then separate.
Mm.
That's a season. And then a lifetime is this two verticals, like two horizontals, two verticals. Like it's we're simpatico, we're aligned, we're going the distance, like this is the real deal, that kind of thing. And maybe this person is in your life for a reason, or maybe this
Mm.
person is in your life for a season, or maybe this person's in your life for a lifetime. And I don't know the answer because we're not dead. There we go. That's better. So plus
Mm.
backward parenthetical, equal sign,
Mm.
right? Reason, season, lifetime. And this is a really beautiful framework for lots of big, messy situations that you might not be able to control.
Mm.
And so you've got, one partner has one set of standards and another partner has another set of standards, and you need to do it my way. And why are you such an ignorant baboon? And why aren't you more loving? And why aren't you? And why aren't you? And more judgment and judgment and judgment. How's that working?
Mm.
Fantastic. So maybe this person is in your life to give you a reason and learn and grow. Maybe this
Mm.
person is in your life for a season and then your journeys are going to take you somewhere else. And maybe this person's in your life for a lifetime, and this is an opportunity for you to grow and expand. Now, I don't know which story you want because it's not my story, it's yours. But what I
Wow.
can tell you is, go ahead.
That's really interesting because there's a reason. You can decide that there is a reason for me to learn and grow because this person is giving me all of the information I need to become better, to make this work. There is a season, and that can mean that, okay, that they'll teach you a lesson and that's it. But there's also life. What I find interesting is that you're saying you choose the meaning. Like, do we have the power, or is it you gotta figure out which one of those it is? Or are you saying it's in your power to decide which one like that would be scary and like really
Yeah,
scary. Is it in
no,
our
it's
power to choose, or is it's gotta be one of those? You gotta figure out which, or is it you gotta decide which one it is? Like, because that's wow.
it can be all three simultaneously, which is even more fun. But the truth is, like
Mm,
like there's this positive thinking and there's a phrase which drives me up the wall, which is uh life happens for me, not life
mm,
happens to me. Which is
mm,
which is a lovely platitude on the other side of pain and misery. But when somebody is, doing drugs in the gutter, this is happening for me. This is God's plan. You're sick. God is sick. Right. So I've never been a big phrase of the life is happening to for me instead of to me. The next level up of thinking is everything happens for a reason and it serves me.
mm,
That's also positive, but again, go back to the guy in the gutter with the crack and he's struggling and tell him that everything happens to this is happening to you for a reason and it serves you. Again, screw you. You're a
mm,
bastard. I can find the good in any situation.
mm,
That is a more personal onus of control. I can find the good in this.
mm,
Well, the fact that you're able to resource and find drugs while living in the gutter and having no place to live, you're a very resourceful person. I wonder where
mm,
else you could use that resourcefulness and what else is getting in the way of stopping you from fully activating the resourcefulness that's inside you. That's a much different conversation because it says there are some good qualities of you, even though you're in this life circumstance for this season. There
mm,
are some capacities and capabilities, but what else needs to happen? What other support needs to happen to get you out of that? Versus, oh, look at that guy in the gutter. He's worthless. It's like, that doesn't help anybody. So you can find the good in any situation. It's your story to tell.
mm,
If somebody is yelling at you, is that because they are mad at you? Is that because you did something wrong? Is that because you deserve to get yelled at? Is that because they are a narcissist or abusive in some way? Is that because they are scared? Is it because they don't
mm,
feel like they're being heard? Is it because they are at the end of their rope existentially and they are so depleted and feel like nobody's listening to them and the only way to get people to pay attention is to yell and scream at the world? I
mm,
don't know. But there's seven different stories for that one data point. So in our Kung Fu system, we talk about Shaolin Wing Chun, but we
mm,
talk about the idea of space, energy, and time. Space and time is external. It's reality.
mm,
Energy is internal. Energy is a choice. If you say this is a crisis, this is a tragedy, that creates a flow of energy inside you. It creates a way of thinking. It organizes your neural network. It creates interpretation. If you say this is an opportunity, this is a calling, you will
mm,
show up differently. Same circumstance.
mm,
But if someone says, this is crap and I hate doing this, versus someone says, wow, what an opportunity to learn how to never have to do this again, those two different stories change the energy of the person inside, doesn't change the time and space. Someone's going to punch you in the face. You go, oh, they hate me versus, oh, what a great offering. I don't want to play with it. So let me introduce you to the wall. And you catch their arm and you redirect them and push them into the wall.
mm,
I just refuse to participate in your violence. Let me just send it somewhere else. Let me reflect it back to you. And if you can't handle what you started, maybe you shouldn't be starting problems in the first place. And that's where, the Buddhist monks studied fighting as a vehicle back to harmony. Why? Because it's all just energy and motion. It's not personal. This person is expressing where they are at and what they've gone through in their life experience to this
mm,
moment, and they are
mm.
expressing it to you. Can you fully receive it and fully appreciate it and not necessarily get involved with it? Right? The
Wow.
height of wisdom, the height
Wow.
of wisdom is to reduce your suffering and reduce their suffering at the same time. If I reduce my suffering but cause you suffering, that's not wise, because you'll
Mm.
resent me and resist and come after me. But if I decrease your suffering but increase my own, that's not wise, because now my misery and pain goes up, and now my need to get vengeance and all that stuff. So how can I, this is, we call it wisdom, apply your knowledge guided by compassion, but for what purpose? To reduce my suffering and your suffering at the same time. That's true wisdom.
Mm. Jeremy, that's we need to say something more about that. How can someone, let me take an example of something I never understand.
Mhm.
Everyone I see on the internet says, when you see a narcissist, run. When you see a narcissist person, run. If you're married to a narcissist, leave. But I sit in a place of, maybe this is just a torn person. Maybe this is just a wounded person. Maybe this is just a person that is really bleeding on the inside. Like, I don't know that anybody would wake up and decide, I am a narcissist, look at me. Like, I never have been to a point where I thought that anybody wanted to be controlling, manipulating, and all of those things. What I do believe is that people have been maybe burnt, wounded, and they probably have never got to a point where they resolve that. And life is just taking them for a ride. And so I want you to use this framework or what we've been discussing for someone who feels like they are with a narcissist. How can they reduce the suffering bit for them and for the other person? Or what
Mhm.
are they missing that keeps, because you say everything is feedback, everything is feedback. How can they
Mhm.
receive from this person or reflect back or whatever to kind of, because there's a neutral point, but it's just that people never get to it and it's just like this. But I think there's a neutral
Right.
point. How can we get the absolute worst case and you can create your own worst case and say, okay, this would guarantee divorce, but this is
Mhm.
what else can happen. It can guarantee an unstoppable momentum. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, let's use something
Yeah.
like that because I feel couples is very relatable to people.
Yeah. So part of the conversation, narcissism, like true narcissism, is a very, very, very small percentage of the population.
Mm.
And right now, narcissism is being used as a whipping post, because is the other person truly narcissistic, truly a narcissist? Are they
Mm.
behaving narcissistically, like in the ways of a narcissist? Um, are they just telling you stuff you don't like? Because
Mm.
so like take the concept of gaslighting. Well, if I have a different recollection of something than you do, and then people like knee jerk defense, oh, you're gaslighting me. It's like, no, or gaslighting me. Sorry, not ghost, gaslighting. You're gaslighting me. It's like, no, this is what I experienced.
Mm.
This is my memory of the thing. I mean, look at eyewitness statements of a crime. All the eyewitnesses have different stories. If like
Mm.
most of them have the same story, that's usually suspicious. They're
Mm.
they're in collusion of some sort. So there's this whole layer of like using psychological terms out of context as a form of control or abuse. Well, if you're using psychological terms to try to control my behavior, is that a narcissistic pattern? So
Mm.
just by calling out someone and saying, well, you're being a narcissist or you are a narcissist, well, that could be a narcissistic behavioral pattern too. Oh
Mm.
shit. So how do we handle this? And that's the problem with a lot of these labels and projections, right? So it really,
Mm.
let's get our hearts in alignment. And first thing is, you cannot necessarily play a game with everyone and win, because that's just
Mm.
not real, right?
Mm.
You cannot be everybody's best friends. I know of a family who adopted a young lady who had what is called reactive attachment disorder. The young lady they adopted tried to throw her baby sister in the fire because she was loud and annoying. Okay, there's no amount of, but I really love you. No, you have to handle that child in a way that child, reactive attachment disorder, usually is somebody who's been through some pretty massively horrific situations. And so they're
Mm.
a lot like me, like they're more, but my safety and security is only within my control, and I can't trust anyone or anything ever.
Wow.
Right? So how can you put somebody with that? Because There are sociopaths. There are people that literally have no empathy. Usually they experience a significant emotional event, moment of impact, abuse, trauma,
Mm.
usually somewhere between before about 4 years old. Because our empathy stuff turns on between 3 and 5 is when the neurochemistry kicks in for us to begin to have empathy for other people and understand their emotions and care about them. True
Mm.
sociopaths do not have that structure innervated. It's not connected in. So they literally just don't have empathy. They look at humanity like we look at cattle, like just animals to toy with and animals to be used for a purpose. Not all sociopaths are homicidal and murderous, but it's just the idea that there are people who do not have empathy. They do not understand why you're upset and they make you wrong for being upset. Those are more narcissistic. It's like every time you're upset, they take zero ownership. But that could also be the result of a wound that is unresolved, exactly what you said. And they're
Mm.
hurt. And so from a place of defensiveness,
Mm.
and that's the hard part is like, how do we suss this stuff out? So we were talking about framework earlier. First step was awareness. Second step is acceptance.
Mm.
This is the reality. This is the reality. Whether I like it or I don't, it does not
Mm.
matter. This is the reality. You're getting punched in the face. You have this person treating you in such a way, and they never take ownership and they never apologize. Whatever they are or are not is completely beside the point.
Mm.
The impact in their life, is it your job to save them? Is it your job to heal them? No, that's theirs.
Mm.
I can't plug the hole of somebody else. They have to do it for themselves. Like I have clients, it's like I can't do the work for you. When I had the Kung Fu school, mom and dad can buy the food. They can cook the food. They can cut the food. They can put it on your plate. Who has to eat the food if they want to get big and strong? Because if
You.
mom and dad eat your food, they're going to get big and strong because the food we eat becomes our body. If you
Mm.
don't eat, you're not going to get big and strong. There is work you have to do. You have to chew your own food. You have to chew
Mm.
your own food because there's enzymes and there's stuff that goes on in your saliva that tells your body what the food is and how to prepare it and how to best absorb it. And if you don't chew it, if you don't chew it thoroughly and you don't swallow it, like well, all these things, like there's the reason we're wired the way we are. I'm
Mm.
sorry. This is just the reality. Well, I don't like to have to go take a bath. I don't like to have to take a shower. I don't like to have to wipe my butt. Okay, well, I mean, I guess you don't, but just realize very quickly you're going to smell and stink and people aren't going to want to be around you and you're going to have no friends. So, I mean, I guess you could do that, but the social contract is no one's going to want to be near you because you're smelly and gross.
Mm.
So if you want to be around friends, then you got to do the things that attract them and make them. So you got to play the game of life a little different, kid. Sorry. Well, like brushing teeth. Well, I mean, don't do it long enough, they'll fall out of your head, and then you don't eat anything tasty because you can't eat candy with no teeth. What? That's not okay. Oh, well, then I guess you got to brush your teeth if you want to eat candy. Like it's you got to enter their model of the world, but I have to accept what my kid is telling me is legit, whether I agree with it
Mm.
or disagree with it, whether it's that's unreasonable. You're being a stupid child. Don't do that. It's like you could do that too, but how well does that work to get your result? So awareness and acceptance. And so, okay, how do I handle? I have a partner who is addicted to alcohol. Okay,
Mhm.
honey, I'm really concerned about your health. And I know this is something that you enjoy, and I don't want to take it away from you, but I have concerns. Could we talk about those concerns? Could we explore this? Could you? I don't know that this is a healthy amount, and I'm worried about, and I see how much of your life it's taking away from everything else.
Mm.
So it's validating. They have a right to be where they are and to feel what they feel and think what they think. This is acceptance. It's like you have a right to be whether I agree with it or not is beside the point. When my wife
Mm.
is upset about something, how I feel about her feelings, that's my business, not hers.
Mm.
And she is allowed to feel what she feels. She was in a previous relationship where she was not allowed to feel what she feels. When she's upset, come back and talk when you're reasonable. And he would just shut her down. And it's like that's not what she needs to thrive.
Mm.
She's her name is Autumn. She's a force of nature. Like she's in her feelings, good or bad. She's in her feelings. And it's like, okay, cool. That you're allowed to feel that way. And I told her like way early when we got together, I will never make you wrong for your feelings. I might not agree
Mm.
with them, but that's my business, not yours. And
Mm.
ultimately, it doesn't matter whether I agree or not, because the reality is you're in this emotion. Tell
Mm.
me more. And
Mm.
that's me as the masculine. I can create space where she can be in that emotion and I don't take it personal most of the time. Sometimes I get in my stuff too, because it's like, that's not fair. But But like being able to accept where your partner's at, but also being able to accept, and we go back to reason, season, lifetime, being able to accept the fact I might have to let you go. It's
Mm,
not because I don't love you. It's because what you're doing and the impact of it, it's not sustainable for me. It's not sustainable for the kids. If this stays, and this is where we go to evaluation, not judgment. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I love you and we all have things to work on as people. I'm not better than you. I'm on a different path. And I just don't see how we can stay in alignment if this is going to be such an important part to you. I don't see how there's room for me or for the kids or for your career to be a priority if alcohol is going to be the priority for you. And if
mm,
that's what you need to do, it breaks my heart, but I see what that then that's what you need to do. But you can't do that here. You can't do that with me. You can't do that in these ways.
mm,
Right. And I'm not putting a judgment of, how dare you and who do you? It's like we all screw things up. I get it. And I would love to continue on this journey with you. I would love to see our marriage continue, but I don't see how it continues as it is right now without some modifications and some adjustments on both of us. And that's where, when I work with couples, I'll say, yeah, you guys should totally get a divorce, not necessarily from each other. How about you
mm.
get a divorce from the way you guys were relating to each other? How about we get a divorce from the past? Because I don't want to take
Mm,
that word because that word can be used as a hammer and beat
mm,
people. But I'm like, maybe it's not you're divorcing each other. Maybe it's you're divorcing the past relationship, the past
mm,
way of relating. Because see, a lot of people like relationship, it's two words. The
mm.
relation is the human side. The ship is the structure. Most people don't have a relationship. They have a ship relation because they put the structure first, right? My wife can't disrespect me without my permission
Mm,
because I just refuse to accept her behavior in that story. She can tell me where she's at. She can communicate to me that she's upset or frustrated. One time she threw a banana at me to get my attention. And I laughed because I was like, damn, I'm sorry I wasn't paying enough attention. Tell me more. Thank you for not throwing knives. We laughed. And so after that point, because I totally just was like, no big damn deal. Right. But because I did that, then next time she's like, do I need a banana? Tell me more. Like I know what that means. Like, tell me more. I'm here. Right. But it's such a playful way to be where, oh,
mm,
she's throwing things at you. That's abusive. She's a narcissist. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ, get off your high horse here, dude. Like, please tell me how much more wounded you are. Because like you'll have people that get into this whole narcissist battle, and then whether they're right or wrong, they're both
mm,
wounded and they're both weaponized going away from that. That's not wisdom,
mm, mm,
right? Because now they're both so, oh, I must destroy this person. I must label them. It's like putting labels on someone to diminish or control or contain. That's a masculine ritual of
mm,
control, right? That person's a jerk. That person's an idiot. That person's whenever you can label and compartmentalize, and it's a way to control and limit. I took all of everything, the whole complexity of your life, and I put it in a thimble, and I'm going to put it up on the shelf because I have a label for you now. I have control. I don't have to deal
wow.
with the full totality of your life. The feminine side of that is the criticism, the emasculation, the withholding.
Mm,
And it's I'm just gonna diminish you. Right. And it's either one of those is loving response or a cry for help. It's a cry for help.
mm,
Now, are you qualified to help the other person? Are you capable? Go back to that family with the young lady with the reactive attachment, not
mm,
because they didn't like her, didn't care about her, didn't want what was best for her. They couldn't devote the resources that she needed to thrive and have other children in the household. Right. And
wow.
it's heartbreaking to say, we want to take care of you and we want to adopt you. We want you to be a part of our. She's young and threw a baby in a fireplace. Like you can't do that or tried to.
Mm,
Like you can't do that.
mm,
But she was loud.
wow.
Not, I'm in trouble. I'm sorry, but I was justified. She was loud.
Wow. Wow.
Like and it's like you see the mismatch. Like to me that's a mismatch in culture, and you don't have the
Mm,
resources to help this child to the level that they need. Then yes, that child needs to be in another place, but then you've got to give that child a story to support this decision versus, well, I was just trying to make things quieter and they got rid of me and it's their fault and they don't love me and nobody loves me, and now that kid can reinforce their identity and drive themselves into the pavement harder. This is where the
mm,
power of story becomes so important and context becomes so important.
wow. Okay. So awareness,
Mhm.
acceptance,
Yeah.
and what's
Now
the
the hard,
what's the
the
third?
linchpin, the linchpin. This one's the hard one. Is appreciation.
Mm,
And appreciation means two things, and this is
mm,
where people get nerfed. But appreciation means two things. One, it can mean gratitude, like thank you
mm,
for telling me, right? But appreciation can also mean I've been in a similar situation to that. I can relate. So
mm,
appreciation can be relatedness. Not that I understand what you're going through, but I've been in a similar situation. I could imagine something along these lines because that's how we begin to start building rapport. It's really hard to get mad at someone who is grateful and understanding of where you are.
mm,
Really hard to get mad at them, right? You call
mm,
someone up, company screwed you over, you call customer service, you're mad, you're like, I believe you're going to do this, and like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry that happened to me, or that happened to you. That never should have happened. Please tell us more. We want to make this right for you. Well, you're going to listen to me. I am listening. Please tell me more. Thank you. What?
mm,
Because like immediately the wind comes out of your, because this is wrong. You're right. Well, you're going to fix it. I will.
mm,
What? Like that's all they want. And if you can match that energy and just validate,
mm,
I know what it's like to have been treated like that. That we did that. Please tell me more. I'm going to document this so that we can have a communication with our team so that we can go and address this. This is on us, 100%. So what would it take to make you happy? Okay, I don't know that I can go quite that far, but what if it was like 80% of that? What if it was this instead? Would that be good enough? Would that have earned your business and earned your respect? Okay, let me run that up the chain. I'll be right back. Can you hold for 5 minutes? And most often, if you did that, people will ask for a whole lot less than what the company was willing to do. And so that ability, the appreciation, the gratitude, but then the relatedness, those two
mm,
sides, it builds rapport and it builds connection.
mm,
And somebody's scared, somebody's upset, somebody's worried, and they tell you what's going on with them. And the first thing you say is, "Thank you for telling me." I don't imagine that that was an easy thing to say, but thank you for telling me because I can't change what I'm not aware of. And you made me aware, which is the first step of this whole chain. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that.
mm,
Versus, why do you feel that way? It's not like that.
mm,
That's defensiveness, right? Loving response, cry for help. Loving response is thank you for telling me. I had no idea that it landed like that for you. I am so sorry. That was never my intention. But the fact that it hurt you, I got to deal with that. Please tell me more. And
mm.
that's
And
uncomfortable.
when they tell you more, so now I'm on the appreciation bit. When they tell you more, assuming none of it makes any sense, like assuming you're like, oh, okay, like how does any of this make sense? Like,
Can I write this down?
okay.
Yeah, just ask, can I write this down? And you start to write it down. And then,
Mm,
okay, I want to make sure I'm following you. And then you begin to feed it back. And then we can go into, there's a communication chain of like how to validate and feedback and
mm,
unravel. Because if they're an emotional thing and a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't have to make sense logically. It can just be
mm,
a feeling. It can just be, well, but there's no reason you should feel this way, but I feel this way. So obviously I'm the idiot and I'm wrong for feeling this way. No, that's not what I said. What I said was there's no reason you should feel this way. Okay, there's no reason I feel this way, but I feel this way. So obviously I'm the idiot. Thanks. And that right there is a breakdown in communication. That was a masculine frame versus a feminine frame. Masculine is cutting out and getting to the one point, and feminine is going to the context. And I'm not saying who, it's
mm,
not man, woman, it's right brain, left brain.
mm,
But you're getting into this battle about, well, there's no reason for you to feel that way. Masculine.
mm,
Okay, but I feel this way. This is how I feel about this. So you're telling me I'm an idiot, which is jumping to a conclusion, right? It's projected meaning. Well, no, I didn't say you were
mm,
an idiot. Okay, well, what am I supposed to take away from? There's no reason I should feel this way, but I feel this way. Like screw you, dude. Like, like, and that's where people get into this. They're trying to be right,
mm,
and so get rid of the whole. But this doesn't make sense. Okay, okay, I'm hearing what you're telling me, and this
mm,
is how you feel, and this is what's going on for you,
mm,
and this is what happened for me. What happened doesn't lead to that emotion, but you're telling me for you, what happened over here in column A leads to the emotion in column B.
mm,
Oh, wow. Okay. Because they're telling you their model of the world. They're telling you their internal
mm,
wiring,
mm,
right? It's like I've worked with kids that are on spectrum, and it's like they're wired the way they're wired. There's no, but it should be. That's my
Mm,
world, not theirs. I had a kid that came
mm,
in at 17, personality of a toaster. And a year later, I had him helping me assist class and teaching 4-year-olds, and he knows how to use his eyebrows and he can make jokes and he can turn his face on because I helped him gear what he's doing internally than what he's doing on his face to what's impacting externally and how to like adapt. And his parents were amazed. They're like, we never thought he would be like this.
mm.
And he knows how to emote. It's still very narrow bandwidth, but he can emote. He can use his face. He can tell jokes and get 4-year-olds to laugh.
Wow.
Where before his steady face was
Mm,
his face was just off
wow.
because there's not a lot of energy in his face. And it's like so like when we say that we need to add on, we're deleting. This makes no sense to me as I am understanding it.
Mm,
Because that's the bigger statement. And we're deleting a bunch of
mm,
stuff by saying, well, that makes no sense. Well, it makes no sense to who? Because it makes sense to me. So it doesn't make sense to
mm,
you. Oh, it doesn't make sense to you as you're understanding it right now. And when we add the right now, it's a temporal marker. Right now presupposes if right now I don't get it, at some future point I might get it.
mm,
Right. This is how we can be more specific in our language or more precise to like create more potential for room to grow and breathe. This is on me. The way I'm understanding you right now, what you're telling me here and you're feeling there, I don't understand how it goes together. But you know
mm,
what? I love you. And the fact that this is what you're feeling, we need to address this because that's the acceptance. And that's this person is where they are and they're experiencing what they're experiencing. So do I want to, well, guess it sucks to be you because you have those feelings. Haha. That's like, but then that's not a relationship.
mm,
That's a ship relation. That's your focus on the structure. And it's like, do you want to be right or do you want to get results? If you want to be right,
mm,
focus on the ship. You want to get results, focus on the relation. Because it's about relating to each other. I don't know that I fully agree. Do you need me to agree? Like I'll ask. My wife is telling me this big, huge thing, and it's like, do you need me to agree, or can I just appreciate the story? Like I'll ask because it's sometimes no, just appreciate the story. Damn, babe, that's a lot going on. That's impressive.
mm,
Do you need to like think about some ways to handle that, or are you just kind of in the moment? You're in the story right this second.
mm,
Again, I'm asking where does she want to go next? Like does she care to go next, or just like this is just the thing? Now you know how you know what my day has been like. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye. Sometimes she just wants to communicate and connect, so I know where she's at and what she's thinking and feeling. It's an
mm.
invitation, right? Doesn't
Wow.
have to be what's the point. The
Mm,
point is she got a lot of stuff going on in her life, and she wants me to know what she's thinking and what she's feeling and what's weighing on her. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Not all guys can handle that because then they go, well, I got to solve the problem. I got to take those people out. You can't talk to my wife like that. I'm going to destroy you, which not a bad thing either. But if it gets in the way of your communication with your marriage and your wife is like, you never listen to me because you're out like
mm,
trying to like solve the thing. She didn't ask you to solve the problem, dude. So don't try to solve the problem she's not asking. Consent is a
mm,
beautiful thing. If she says, I got this problem, could you help me? Ladies, just so you know, guys love to help. We hate to rescue. Make us rescue you. We will give you a lecture. It's just the deal. That's the ritual. But if we say, can I help? Then you say, yes, here's what you could do. Here's how to be helpful. And you tell us, and then we'll go do it and we'll be happy
mm.
because we like being helpful.
Okay. Awareness, acceptance,
Acceptance, appreciation.
appreciation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now the hardest, though, not the hardest, but the next step is ownership.
Mm,
Here's what I did. Here's how it impacted you. Here's what I can control. Here's what I can do. Here's how I can step in. Here's how I can adjust. Here's how I can learn. Here's how I can grow. What is my deal in this? Right? When
mm,
my daughter was born, when our daughter was born, she was 14 weeks early.
mm,
14 weeks one day, she weighed 1 pound, 1.8 ounces, or 505 grams. So a little bit less than a bottle of water.
mm,
And and for 2 weeks, we spun ourselves into a tizzy because is she going to walk? Is she going to talk? Is she going to get out of the NICU? Is she going to go to school? Is she going to play sports? Is she going to go to college? Is she going to get married? And we're stacking 20, 30, are we going to be grandparents? Like we got 40 years of pain. This kid's only hours old and we're stacking 40 years of misery. No one's doing it to us but us. Our doubts and our fears and our worry and our insecurity and all the things. And after about 2 weeks, I realized what we were doing. I was like, okay, babe, I love you. We got to stop because this isn't helpful. The future is not guaranteed. We don't know what's going to happen, right? So would you be willing to play a game with me? She's like, sure. I was like, cool. Control what we can control, influence what we can influence, let go of the rest. We can control our story. We can control our focus. We can control our time. We can control our energy. We can control how we show up. We can influence each other and each other's story and each other's energy. And we can influence the doctors. We can influence the daughter. We can't control any of that stuff. We can influence it. And anything that's outside of that, we're just going to let it go. And we're going to appreciate the time that we have with her because we don't know how much we have. And instead of looking to the unknowable future, let's go with she was born, which is awesome. And you're the only woman who's ever made me a dad, which is awesome. And then she's doubled her body weight. She's tripled her body weight. She's quadrupled her body weight. Like, let's look at what milestones we can celebrate and celebrate them as we go. She's off the feeding tube. She's off the vent. She can feed herself. Like, look at these cool things. And then we just never stopped. We never stopped appreciating that stuff. So now she'll be 10 next month and we're still appreciating. Like every day, it's like, my favorite thing today was this. Right. And so that's ownership. Control what you can control, influence what you can influence, and let go of the rest. Because that's all we can ever do anyway. These people get on the internet and they're haranguing people and posting and writing and doing all these things. And it's like, but do you really have influence or impact with those people out there? What about the people in your immediate circle? Right. When I was a little kid, there was this one singer that I was really enamored with, and I was going to write her a letter and tell her all this stuff and my family and all this stuff and all this stuff. And as I'm in my mind writing this letter, in my mind, she sent me a reply. Why are you telling me I'm not your family? Maybe you should tell them. And then in my mind, I told her, shut up, because I wasn't ready to hear that. Shut up, you stupid brain. Leave me alone. But that's actually really good advice. Why don't I tell my family this stuff? Because I'm not ready. Like that was the answer is I'm not ready. What if they say, what if they, I'm already rejecting me. What if they reject me? If I haven't given them the opportunity to reject me. So maybe they won't, but I don't know. So it's kind of in this quantum state of flux. But if I force the answer, I might not like the answer because I already don't like me. What if they really tell me they don't like me either? That would be really heavy. But now I'm burning resources because I'm in this place of tension with my family because I don't know how they feel about me because I already know how I feel about me, but I don't know how they feel. So now I'm under more tension, right? I'm just spinning myself up. But that was, again, belief system, right? Stuck myself. So the ownership, yeah, the ownership is of your stuff. It's because what you say is something, what they receive is everything, but you can't control what they receive, but you can't control what you say. You can control the way you say it. If you say that this way and that they get reactive to it and they get high amplitude energy, they get emotional about it, maybe you should look at what you're saying, or you should listen to what you're saying, or you should, think about what you're saying a little differently.
But what if
And
they're asking you a question and you're responding and that's triggering something? What if they are forcing the answers out of you? Or is it like think through your answer?
you could, yeah. That's really an uncomfortable question. And the answer I want to give you right this second, I don't like, and I don't know that I agree with that answer. So what I'm going to do, I need at least 24 hours to process and give you the right answer, not just a answer. If we keep this conversation going, it's going to probably get ugly on my side because I'm really not in a good space on this at this moment. That's ownership. You can press. I will tell you now, I don't think either of us will like where this goes because I'm not in a good place with this right this moment. And again, I'm using temporal markers right this moment, which again presupposes in the future it'll change. But it's like I'm owning where I'm at. And no, you deserve that answer 100%. Can I have X amount of time and get back to you? Or do you need an answer right now? Because the answer I'm leaning towards right now is not going to be pretty. And
But
and
what if there's a pressing
mhm,
from their side and you
mhm,
can tell that there's nothing you're going to say that is going to help. But
mhm.
what if they were ahead of you in emotion and they were like, right now, but you're like, no, I don't know.
Yeah,
I like to put my foot down and say, no, no, no.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Is that a no forever, or is that a no right now?
Mm, not right now.
Because
Okay.
that's a make or break pivot point in this relationship, because
Mm,
that may be a place too far. Right? You
mm,
got a couple that's together and they're both kind of like feeling some kind of way. And she's like, well, I think we should have an open relationship and I think we should be able to have sex with other people. Like, we're still married and we still live together and we'll still this and this, but we can have sex with other people. And he's like, no way in hell.
mm,
Like, just absolutely no way in hell. Well, I don't know why you're being like that. If you really loved me, then you would like let me just have sex with whoever I want. It's like, that's not okay with me. Like if that's what you need for you to truly live, that's fine, but it's not going to be with me.
mm,
Because what I truly need in a wife is loyalty, and that to
mm,
me is not loyalty, and that's not something I really want. I'm not interested in debating. It's sort of a bridge too far. It's a must never. Like, I would never cheat on
mm,
you, and the fact that you're even available to that, right? And that's why when I work with couples, we go through and we have a process called Five to Thrive, and it's like, what would make you, not with this person, but just what would make you in a relationship, in your ideal relationship, what would make you thrive? And we have 5 areas that we explore, and number 5, which is the most important, is the must nevers, or the rule breakers,
mm, mm,
right? Well, I mean, they only try to throw me down the stairs on Tuesday. The other 6 days of the week is awesome. It's like, no, any violence,
mm,
absent a safe word in the context of intimacy, any violence is
mm,
a deal killer. Like, there's no, I misunderstood. I didn't
mm.
mean to throw you down the stairs. It was an accident. I just kind of got carried away in the moment. Like, no, no, hands the hell off of me, dude. So it's like, there's frameworks that we can pack in to kind of
Mm,
things in place. Because yeah, you will get to that. Well, no, but I need an answer right now, honey. I want to give you an answer right now, but the answer I want to give you is not. It's real, but it's not true.
mm.
If
It's
you
my
if you push
answer
me in a
right
corner,
now, but I don't know that this is the answer we need right now. I don't even know
right?
that you want this answer. Mm,
Because masculine wants to give the answer, not a answer. It's not just say something to move the conversation forward. I got to think about this. I got to go to the well and I got to like roll the bucket down and get the water and bring it back up. And then I got to look in the bucket and then I got to come back and then I got to share the bucket with you. Like, it takes time.
mm.
And
Wow.
we need that time to really, because it's like I've got to give you, you're asking me a question, so I'm going to give you the best possible answer that I can based
Mm,
on my principles, my values, my lived experience, and my
mm,
expertise.
mm,
And because you'll never hear a masculine person, yeah, I said that, but I was just mad. I didn't mean it. Like,
mm,
masculine doesn't say that, feminine does. Because feminine is, I got to honor the feeling and the emotion in the moment. It's a different
mm.
animal. And it might not be masculine, feminine, it might be right brain, left brain. The jury is still out on all that stuff.
I
But
must
but
be
you'll see
that
this.
because the reason I have a problem with like apologizing to people is because I don't tend to do stuff unless I've thought through it. Like if I give
Yeah,
you my answer, it's my answer. And so
yeah,
there has never been a minute where I said it, but I didn't really mean it. Like, no, like I
yeah.
really mean it. Like,
That
so
that's
I'm
more of a
wondering, like, is that masculine or what?
yeah, that's more of a masculine left brain. There's a lot of friends of mine that are ladies that are engineers, and same kind of thing. They don't a lot of the polarity stuff they look at and go, that's just silly. But it may actually be a function of left brain, because the left brain
Mm,
operates different than the right. But
mm,
that's a more masculine frame of like, that's what a lot of guys struggle with. Like, I'm not going to apologize because I wasn't wrong. I'm like, dude, it's not about what you did, it's about how it made her feel.
mm,
She's upset because of what she felt. You need to apologize. I had a guy message me, and I'm in the doghouse. All right, tell me more. Like, I'm curious. So he came home from work and he just done a 12-hour shift, came
mm,
home from work. His wife's best friend and daughter are currently living with him because they have a domestic situation. So he's got more
mm,
people in his house. Walks in the
mm,
door, wife, best friend, 8-year-old daughter, and he's got a daughter too, but 8-year-old daughter, they're filming the 8-year-old friend's daughter twerking for TikTok dances. And they're loud and
mm,
whatever. And he comes in and he's just like, that's not okay. I just got off a shift. You guys are being too loud. But he said something to not his wife, but to his wife's friend.
mm,
And then she got real defensive. and no man's going to tell me what to do. And I'm raising my daughter to be a strong, independent woman. He's like, you can be strong and independent out of my house because I'm paying all the bills here. You're not. And things got ugly, right? And so once he explained the context, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. You need to apologize. What? Yeah, you need to apologize. But I wasn't wrong. I didn't say you were wrong. But you embarrassed your wife in front of her friend because you talked to the friend before you talked to your wife. So you embarrassed her because the friend is a guest based on the wife. So okay, you disrespected your wife. You spoke to the friend. I'm gonna guess because you came home from work and talked to them immediately, more than likely you were probably pretty hot under the collar and not super nice about it. He was like, yeah, maybe. It's like, okay. And she's not living in her current domestic situation because of reasons. So you are a man with a lot of energy and a specific point of view who came in probably like a bat out of hell. And oh, not what you did. What you did wasn't wrong. You're right. The 8-year-old shouldn't be twerking. They shouldn't be filming. They should be more respectful. All these things. You're right, but that's not going to get you anywhere. And it's not about what you did. You don't need to apologize for what you did. It's apologizing for how you made them feel. And you start with your wife. So you go to your wife and you say, hey, babe, now that I've had some time to cool off and think, I just want to say I'm sorry. The dancing and the noise and everything, probably not okay, but that's a different conversation. I just want you to know I probably came in way too heavy and way too hard. And I talked to her before I talked to you. So I'm sure I embarrassed you. And both of you are defending yourselves, which totally makes sense because she's got stuff going on. I made you guys not feel safe. And I'm really sorry about that. That was never my intention. And because he apologized to his wife that way, they had a really good conversation about standards and boundaries and respect and a bunch of cool stuff. But he apologized for how he made them feel. And then together he went and apologized to the friend as well and said basically the same thing. But it was helping him to understand you're not apologizing for what you did. What you did was not wrong. That's not the conversation. It's about how you made them feel when they already have this momentum and this tension going on in other situations that you just added into that because they're going to project it and connect it. So it's apologizing for how you made it. And then he was like, that makes so much sense. Wow. It's like, yeah, because I can move between both sides, so I can communicate and I can build bridges across when I'm given the opportunity. Like, yeah, just here's the framework of how to communicate that, and here's the logic behind it. And I do that for my clients because it's like you got to understand how the stuff works so that you can do it on the fly. I want to create more leaders, not followers. Like I want you to internalize this. You have the keys to the matrix. Go run the thing.
Wow.
And so that's yeah.
Before we go to the fifth one, I do want to ask a personal question because I think I am so bad at this.
Sure.
Not only do I never see the reason to apologize for stuff, I do not like sorry. And so if you come and tell me sorry, my response is, no, man, just fix the thing. I don't need another sorry. Just go back. Yeah. And I would be so happy to see you taking step 1 of this journey. Even if you never apologized, if you just went back and started taking step 1, step 2, step 3, I would never need an apology. So please never feel like you need to apologize because that does not really help me. What can help me is if you go and do this thing, which I really would love for you to do. So tell me how that is dangerous because I think I am really bad at this apology piece. Like I don't not only like I can never like really find like okay like I don't remember what I said that I didn't mean, and so for me that's where like I'm basing my apology. Like, but everything I said, I meant it. Everything I said was well thought. Everything I said is something that I really want you to take seriously, and so for that I don't have like an apology process, which is really bad. Yeah. But also why I'm so bad and not helpful is this. If you come and apologize to me, I'm gonna say, no, dude, like that's not what I need. And I think that can be really bad.
No, it's not that it's bad. That's definitely a masculine frame. Right? That's a masculine frame of reference. It's not bad, it's not wrong. It's just you. That's fine. So are they apologizing to try to heal your emotions, or are they apologizing to acknowledge their mistake or misaction?
They're apologizing because they would never have said that, done that, and they can't quite understand why they did. It's like something else was in them. And now they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said all those things. I can't, she must be upset. She must be hurt. Like, I can't believe why I do that to her. I need to apologize.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you can acknowledge the apology because the apology is not for you, it's for
Mm.
them.
Mm.
Right? They're not trying to heal something in you, they're trying to heal something in themselves. They're in a schism, right? What I did, how I
Mm.
thought, how I acted, how I felt, that's not me. So their identity is separated from that. And that's what they're apologizing is to create wholeness. So you're
Mm.
giving that, you're acknowledging and accepting, you know, thank you for realizing and taking ownership. And you can use those words. Thank you for realizing and taking ownership. I appreciate the fact you want to apologize. You know, the best way to apologize for me would be this. And that's where you then give them
Mm.
what you actually would like them to do. But you have to receive, like the best way to go to help them is if you don't
To
have to, but if you choose
receive.
to receive
Mm.
it and just say, hey, thank you.
Mm.
It's not anything you need, but that's okay. It's like a little kid comes up and gives you a stick and you go, screw you, kid, get that out of my face versus, oh, hey, thanks for thinking of me. And then when the kid goes away, you lose the
Mm.
stick. Or I put it somewhere safe.
Mm.
I left nature in nature.
Mm.
Right.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
it's it's I'm not looking at them like a child, but it's just the concept
Mm.
of in their model of
Mm.
the world, this is a meaningful act. For you, it's meaningless. Okay, cool.
Mm.
Well, and that's where you go ship.
Mm.
They're trying to get healing, so let me give them what they need, but then let me coach them on what I need. Hey, this is thank you. Thank you for acknowledging and for owning that. We all
Mm.
do silly things at times. We all get out of place. I didn't take it super personal, but I appreciate you saying something about it. What would really be great for me is that we never get in this place in the first place. So what if we had a way to catch it before we get there? Could we figure that out? That would be so
Mm.
cool. Right. And now you're stop gapping so that we don't have to repeat this pattern anymore. Cause
Mm.
there's ways to then put structure in place. And then, off camera, we can go into specific situations and
Mm.
specific language patterns to here's how to coach them. Because what you're doing is you're acknowledging, you're accepting, you're appreciating. So you're creating that awareness, acceptance, appreciation. You're opening the frame,
Mm.
and then you're taking ownership of you know giving them the healing they're looking for, and you're slipping in what you actually need. Now, on your
Mm.
side, apologizing to them, it's not about apologizing for what you did or what you said. It's
Mm.
not the thing. It's the meaning and the impact on them and acknowledging the hurt that it caused, and that was never your intention, that was never your goal, and
Mm.
I'm really sorry that what I said landed for you that way. I'm sorry that I hurt you that way, because it's you have to close it for the feminine, you have to own the emotional impact. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry my words hurt you. Oh, it was your words, it wasn't you. Oh, okay. That's not a real apology, right? And
Okay.
it's the no, I hurt you. I hurt you with my
Okay.
words. That lands different,
Okay.
right? I'm
Mm.
sorry my words hurt you. Like, listen to that. I'm sorry my words hurt you.
Mm.
I'm sorry I hurt you with my words.
Wow.
Linguistically, it's
Mm.
80% the same sentence, right? It is the exact same sentence. We're just changing the sequence of the words, but that matters. Pay attention to which one lands better for the person you're with, and then use that more often
Mm.
because that it gets into their heart, it gets into their mind, it enters their model of the world. So this is what I'm always doing is I'm always listening for those linguistic
What
sequences. Going,
what's their
you know,
model? So I pick a very
yeah,
important piece, and I do want to go to the last piece because we're about to close. But
yeah,
I do appreciate that there is something coming up, which is they have a lens of the world. You have
we
your
all do.
lens.
Hmm.
Your what age, they're what age. Everyone has their lens. And no
Yep,
one has to be wrong. And if you want to
correct,
stay married, you better really understand how to speak their language because their lens is
correct.
their lens. Your lens is your lens. And you can
Yep,
both be right and not fight about. No one has to be wrong for this to work. I think that's really important because we get in the
yeah.
mindset of like, why can't you just sit that way? Like, because I don't, you know?
Great.
Wow, that's
Yeah, yeah.
powerful.
Well, I would call it filters, but yeah, we all have
Mm,
filters, right? We have cultural
mm,
filters, cultural lenses, we have linguistic.
mm,
Like even in the same family, I worked with a family, mom, dad, daughter are all auditory. So when there's a
mm,
problem, they sit around and talk about it. right? Daughter's 8 years old. Well, they have a 5-year-old son who's visual kinesthetic. So he needs to see it, he needs to feel it, but they're going to sit down and talk about what went wrong, and he's melting in the chair because they're talking again. If we don't change those interactions and change those patterns, when he's 15, he's going to feel like nobody cares about him. He's going to feel like nobody understands him. He's going to feel like, because he can't create the mental pictures with the words they're using because they're talking too fast, using too big of words. And so we changed that pattern, and we had a 45-minute conversation at a restaurant. I had him paying attention the whole time, and they're like, "How did you do that?" Well, I talk with my hands. It was an Italian restaurant, which I picked on purpose so that I could draw on the table. So I'm drawing diagrams. I'm using the salt pepper shakers. I'm talking, like, I'm doing these things, and I'm also asking him questions to get him engaged. But I know how to enter his model of the world more than he knows how to enter our model of the world. So it's like, do you want to be right or do you want to get results? You dial up, dial down. Like I'm dealing with a kid with smaller framework, so I use smaller words. Believe me, I am loquacious I used to read a thesaurus every night when I went to bed. I'd read one whole page. So I love words and I love to use them. And if you don't like me, I'm pedantic. And if you do like me, I'm precise. But it's oh, that guy's so pedantic. Then you don't like me. It's fine.
This is so good. This is so good. I want to go to the last bit. I know we have awareness, we have acceptance, we have appreciation, we have ownership, and we do have another step, which is your final step, because I want to get this in before we get to the close. Response.
Is responsibility, the ability to respond instead of reacting, right? Because so many people, they have a knee-jerk reaction. You say this, because they're in their wounds. Right? If you don't if anybody caught up in fault, blame, guilt, shame, anybody not giving you a loving response, they're in some sort of a wound, right? Right. The loving response might not be a wound. It might just be, that didn't land for them, or they're feeling some kind of way. But when they're in patterns of fault and blame and guilt and shame for like long periods of time, that's almost always an unresolved existential wound. And we got to get that stuff healed, because everything else you're trying to build, when you fall back into fault, blame, guilt, shame, it's really hard to get into ownership. It's really hard to have the ability to respond, because the fault, blame, guilt, shame keeps us in a reactive state. It keeps us in but I'm right, but I'm not wrong. You got to listen to me. You got to listen. What I say matters. You got to pay attention to me. Like they're in such a place of scarcity. They're so like, there was a thread. There's this woman, and she got like attacked in a New York park, and it was a picture of a lady with a shirt, and the shirt has these squiggly lines, and the squiggly lines are the GPS as she beat the crap out of this guy who tried to assault her in a public bathroom in New York City Central Park. Right. And she's selling the t-shirt, domestic abuse survivors. I love it. I've taught and I've worked with domestic abuse advisors. I've taught personal safety to kids. I've done all these things. And so I was like, I commented on the post. It's such an important skill. Ladies, you have a right. No one should touch you without your permission. This. And some lady like got on and started like tearing into me, and, oh, women have a right because you say so. And like, she's all super whatever. And I was like, wow. She's like, you. I'm like, well, actually, I've been teaching sexual violence prevention for like 20 years in colleges and Girl Scouts and this and this and this. Well, you should do more, and you should this. I'm like, so we went back and forth, and like at the end of it, I'm like, I realized like she's super massive wounded, and the fact that I'm a male of the species, I will always be wrong to her. And I was like, look, I'm sorry somebody hurt you. That never should have happened. Well, you don't know anything about me. How dare you? Who do you think you are? And it's like, okay.
That's funny.
Right. She's in her wound. She's not responding to the conversation. She's reacting to, she has a canned response, or she has a frame that's just locked in place. She is where she is. I'm not going to make her wrong. I'm not going to tear her down. I'm not going to attack her. I'm not like, obviously something happened that she's like super defensive about, and I'm really sorry. And I'm obviously not the right person to talk to her about it, because I'm one of those people to her. Okay. At least let me do no more damage and excuse myself from remove myself from the conversation. That's responsibility versus, how dare you, and you think all men, and we're not like that. And now I'm going to argue with her online, and she's obviously wounded. So it's like, this is just asinine.
That's right? A very big one. That's a very big. Yesterday I posted something in a group, And then people responded, which was really cool of them. But
Love
I
that.
just go to Facebook and then I post and then I go away and then I come back. Like I don't be there responding to every message every second. Like I post, I
Right.
get away. I don't know, 8 hours later or 6 hours later, I go try and catch up. If I can, I do. If I don't, I don't know. It's fine. And so this guy
Yeah, how dare you have a
puts
life?
puts puts like a page under my post, which was lovely because he was contributing to the conversation. I'm like, okay. But then I didn't really go to my Facebook 8 hours later. I now see
Right.
something on my feed where he says, I doubt you're any successful because you don't respond to your responses. And I'm like, did I do anything to offend you? It's like, I'm sure you know you've been there, you have not responded to people's messages. I'm like, dude, I have a life, I have a husband, I have a family, I have a podcast. Stuff goes astray. Like, I don't live on Facebook. I said, maybe the
Right.
place you want to check is like, kind of, why does it bother you so much that somebody didn't
Hmm.
respond to your comment? Because I don't even keep track of who I commented on. Like, I comment and that's it, I'm gone. Like, I'm not going to be sat there, oh my God, what was this? And I'm like, maybe you could look in a place where, like, why does this bother you? And it's
Yep.
funny because I haven't gone back to check because I think there'll be something else and I'm done. Like, that's it. Like, I'm not going to be responding. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
want to kind of go to the work. We've had enough. We've had all of your wisdom right now. We can't possibly exhaust this man's stuff. Like, I told you, it's a lot. I couldn't read the bio because it's just a lot. But hopefully by now, you're like, holy moly. Hopefully that's the response in your heart right now. I want you to take us and tell us a little bit about the containers you have, how people can
Hmm.
move further, whether they choose to go the 10 years route like you or 20 or 30, or whether they choose to take a day to solve stuff, where they take to choose a few months. Like tell us, like, how can people proceed with this with you? Or is there anything you
Yeah.
feel we need to cover that we haven't for the context to kind of come together?
The one thing I would say to everything is it's all games and
Mm,
stories, right?
mm,
The story, and we use this in, you'll see this in the Chinese martial arts, we do this bow. It's the fist in the palm. The palm
mm,
represents the dragon. It represents wisdom. It represents the invisible world. And in the way I frame it, it represents our story. It's our belief system, our BS, but it's our story.
mm,
It's our justification, our rationalization. So the story drives the fist is the games that we play. It's the behavior. In Chinese
mm,
dragon, this is the tiger. This is the visible world. It's the action. It's the body. It's the doing. So when we talk about the tiger, for me, this is about the games we play because the games we play
mm,
drive our impact, and the impact creates feedback into our story. It either validates our story or it breaks our story or it challenges our story.
mm,
And if we can get to that place of mastering the stories and mastering the games, like I can teach people how to fight, I can teach people how to defend their lives. That is a process because we have to add complexity and we have to add threat. It takes a lot of work.
mm,
So building physical skill takes a long time. But if we can change your identity, we can remove a bunch of behavior literally in an instant because that behavior is no longer compatible with the stronger sense of self. That behavior goes away all by itself. We didn't even know willpower involved. We just simply it just simply ceases to exist because it's like, no, that just it's incompatible.
mm,
And so it's like playing in that we can do the slow meat. The body is meat. The body has momentum. Like it takes time to pivot. But if we change your belief system, we change your values, change your story, it all moves fast. And so it's a question of, what people believe is possible, what they believe they deserve, and what they're willing to invest in to go and get where they want to go. So like I've got tons of free content on TikTok and YouTube. You guys can data mine that all day long. Um,
mm.
I've been working on myself for 44 years so far,
Wow.
right? So if you want me to walk you through the 44 years, like I can give you all the stuff and you can go do it over the next 44 years, be my guest. Or we could pivot a lot of that stuff in like as little as one conversation. It's your
Mm,
choice. You want to take the 44 years, you want to take like 44 minutes. And so it's kind of like looking at that and the ways to take a step closer. I have a couple of books on Amazon, so you can Google me there. Um, I've got a free Facebook group. I've got a paid group for men specifically to get into these deeper issues. And that's
Mm,
something I'm really excited about growing. The best thing to do probably is just get on a call with me for 15 minutes, and it will be 15 minutes, and we'll just like, where are you at? What's going on? Where do you want it to be? And what makes the most sense? Whether it's me or it's somebody else. I have a lot of friends that do work and help, some specialists, and I've got courses so we can talk about communication, we can talk about intimacy, we talk about raising your kids. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff and created a lot of stuff. I'm here to help and I'm here to serve. And how can we reduce suffering quickly? How can we increase joy? How can we have better marriages? How can we have happier kids? How can we feel better about ourselves? How can we improve our business? Like, all these things matter and they all connect. Like
mm.
the challenge for me is like, what's the thing you do? Like somebody posted, like, what's your superpower? And I'm like, which one? Well, your mostest superpower. And I'm like, I don't know. I have a right hand and I have a left hand, but I also have 2 feet. So I guess I have four. Like, because they all work. They all do cool things. Um, and so that's always the challenge for me is like pick the thing. And I'm like, let's just get on a call. That's probably the best thing.
Mm.
Um, and really just meet, because then we can talk and we can know, and it saves time, and it like, are you ready? Do you want to let this stuff go? Okay, cool. Like I've had clients with as much as, like, I think the greatest shift has been 50 years. He had a pattern that established at 8 years old, and he was 58 when I worked with him. And we released it. And it was the coolest thing. Because when we got done, you can see that 8-year-old playing and alive in him again. Because like he had this
Mm.
smile, and literally he was like an inch and a half taller because he just wasn't fighting himself anymore. And he would
Wow.
not forgive himself because what could have happened? It didn't, but what could have? And so he kept beating himself for 2 years. And the psychologist didn't get it, and the psychiatrist didn't get it, and the medication didn't numb him enough. So we just changed the memory.
Mm.
And as we were doing the work, he forgot until that moment. They're in the ER and they're pulling glass out of his shoulder. His 3-year-old's dancing the hokey pokey in the corner. She was totally unaffected by this thing. And so he's been beating himself for 2 years. He forgot that memory until we talked about it. And he was able to like appreciate her joy in the moment and forgive himself. And that night he slept 6 hours.
Wow.
And I did a follow-up a week later of like, hey, how's everything going? What's been showing up for you? All the rest. He's like, my girls have a dad who can smile again.
Wow. All right. That's it. That's it today. You're gonna have a link, 15-minute link. If you want more, whatever the form of more it is, whether it's a course, whether it's coaching, whether it's a session, whether it's whatever it is we can do to reduce the suffering or even end it. Okay, I don't know that we end suffering because we're human, we're living, and life will happen. But whatever Jeremy can do to reduce the suffering on the earth, on the planet, allow him to. There will be a link in the section in the comment, I think, which is pinned, and there's also be links in the show notes. Please move. If Jeremy is the person for you, in your bone marrow, you feel it, you know it, and you've been going all this time. Holy crap! Like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Welcome to my world. Look, he's like, this person they place in your life to open your eyes. That's Jeremy. I hope you've enjoyed this. I really hope you have. Jeremy, we do want to have your final parting words of wisdom. So please, now is the time.
So if you want a better life, marriage, business, kids, anything at all, what can you do to trade expectation and turn it into appreciation? Because if you can appreciate the moment, right? This is what I do with my clients all the time, whatever their goals, we add 4 words at the end. You put 3 dots and then you write down and enjoy the process. If you can just decide whatever comes up, good, bad, or sideways, if you just decide you are going to enjoy the process, it gives you permission to laugh even when things get stressful. Happiness does not have to be a destination. It can be a decision, because the fact you're alive and getting to experience this, it can always be worse. Don't ever ask. Whoa, it can't get any worse. Like, yeah, it can. Don't even. Don't test the universe. It can and it will. Just don't. But if you can appreciate this for whatever it is, you have this person, I tell guys all the time, wait, she's mad at you and she's yelling at you. Awesome. That means she cares. She wants you to know what she's feeling. You should be happy. What? Yeah, you should be happy the fact that she's mad, because when she doesn't feel anything at all for you, when she no longer cares that you know what she's feeling, dude. So appreciation for expectation, life changes.
Wow. Jeremy, you've been such a blessing on this podcast. I can't even begin to tell you how. So thank you so much for accepting to be a guest.
My pleasure. This has been a great conversation. And I love your openness and playfulness with all of it.
And to you, my dear listener, if you haven't already, pause, scroll your phone, look around, and decide, like, who is the person whose life we're changing today? Like, whose life are we flipping around today? We want the person who has enough pain. Like, there's a threshold. Like, who do you know that is just tired of sitting in the cow dung and wants to move? That's the person that gets a chance today. And if someone picked you up and you've watched this and gone, oh my God, I'm the person that was sat in the cow dung I was picked, pick another person. We want the person that has reached a point where the suffering is more than their desire to change. That's the person we're looking for. We don't care if it's man, woman, if they are 10 or 100, that's fine. As long as you're a human being that wants to end suffering and is willing to do what it takes, this will help you. I can't appreciate you enough for making this podcast complete, because my gift is really, I translate the soul. His gift is really, he does what he does. And your gift is really, you're the perfect vessel, the perfect ad, the perfect system to get this message in front of the person that it can help the most. So thank you for supporting me in doing this work. And thank you for being on this podcast that, I kid you not, I think is really just channeled by God to end everyone's suffering in this world, especially mine. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you another time. That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.